There's an elephant in the room right now in football. Just like in baseball, the nerds are taking their revenge. After spending their high school years getting stuffed in lockers, the diabolical dweebs have invented analytics, next-gen stats, and PFF grades. Besides completely alienating the average fan, these numbers serve to provide a deeper look at the game beyond the box score, tell a more detailed story than a mere win-loss record, and sometimes they can tell you who's next in the NFL. Today we're breaking down the stats that predict future success. In other words, we're going to nerd out and find out who's going to be good in the upcoming season. And who it is might just blow your mind. Predictability. Predictability is about as straightforward as it gets. It measures how consistently a statistic can be predicted from one year to the next. This is done by calculating the correlation between a team's performance in a specific statistic in one season and its performance in the same statistic the following season, and so on and so forth. A higher correlation indicates a higher predictability, essential for long-term forecasting, aka telling you which teams are going to be good. Predictability serves as a bedrock for reliable metrics, allowing esteemed analysts like myself to distinguish between fleeting trends and consistent performance indicators, or people just throwing out their opinions as gospel. We don't see that much, do we? On the other hand, predictiveness assesses a statistic's ability to forecast a team's likelihood of winning. This involves two types of winning percentage predictiveness: same season and next season. Stay with me here. Same season predictiveness measures the correlation between a statistic and a team's winning percentage within the same season. Although it might be useful for understanding the impact of specific statistics on immediate outcomes, its practical application for future predictions isn't always a guarantee. Next season predictiveness, however, is the gold standard. It examines the correlation between a statistic in one season and the team's winning percentage in the next season, providing valuable insights for forecasting future success. I know gamblers' ears just perked up hearing that, you filthy degenerates. Just kidding, it's me. I'm a filthy degenerate. Yeah, we all are. Let's keep it simple to start. Turnover margin serves as a prime example. Over the past decade, turnover margin has shown a strong correlation with same season winning percentage. It hovers around 70%, which goes a long way towards confirming its significant impact on a team's success. 70% is a pretty good metric. That should all make sense. The more you take the ball away and the less you lose it, your chances of winning go up. It doesn't take a Harvard grad to see the correlation now, does it? However, its year-to-year predictability is actually pretty low, around 10%, meaning it's sort of unreliable for predicting future performance. So you can't look at a team like the 2022 49ers, who had a plus 13 margin, the best in the league, and expect them to repeat that wide margin. Of course they didn't. In 2023, despite advancing to the Super Bowl, they were only 8th in turnover margin. Last year, the Giants were tied for the best turnover margin with the Ravens, and unfortunately, that doesn't guarantee anything going forward. Like winning, God, last year was brutal. Similarly, a team's winning percentage, while perfectly correlated with itself within the same season, shows only a 25% correlation year to year, underscoring the NFL's sheer chaos and unpredictability. Yeah. Just because you won some games one year doesn't mean you're going to win any the next year. Yet some statistics prove to be more reliable indicators of future success. Yards per play allowed, and yards per play differential show a decent amount of year-to-year predictability and a reasonable correlation with future winning percentages, with yards per play differential being particularly helpful. These metrics provide a more nuanced view of a team's performance, capturing the effectiveness of both the offense and the defense. The 49ers had the widest yards per play differential in 2023 with a margin of plus 1.63. And this isn't all that controversial. They should be pretty good in 2024. Now, before you fire up your online gambling app, pump the brakes. You're always going to need context, though. The Bengals were the third worst in yards per play differential last year, but they lost Joe Burrow halfway through the season. So you can't just pump the numbers into the computer without thinking things through, just like your dad did, and now you are here. You wonderful little accident, you. Points per play allowed, and points per play differential also demonstrate significant same-season predictiveness, with points per play differential standing out as a strong indicator of future success. However, these metrics face challenges due to their lower year-to-year predictability and the tricky interactions between offense, defense, and special teams. The inherent variability in scoring plays influenced by factors such as field position and special teams performance muddies the predictive power of these metrics. First down rate differential, which uses first down rate and first down rate allowed, certainly looks like a compelling metric. Let's elaborate. It has a high year-to-year predictability and effectively separates offense and defensive performance, highlighting the greater predictiveness of offensive metrics. However, despite its strengths, first down rate differential falls short of being the most predictive statistic for future success, partly due to its lack of consideration for special teams impact. It's 1/3 of the game and will only become more important next year with the new kickoff rules. The ability to sustain drives and control the tempo of the game as captured by first down rates provides a clearer picture of a team's execution on offense only. Football Outsiders DVOA, defensive adjusted value over average, provides a good framework, incorporating offensive, defensive, and special teams performance. If you're a nerd and do nerd shit, you've probably heard about DVOA on a bunch of nerd podcasts, and for good reason. DVOA's year-to-year predictability and its correlation with future winning percentages show its value in picking next year's winners, with special teams performance proving more significant than traditionally acknowledged. By isolating the contributions of each phase of the game, DVOA offers a fairly comprehensive assessment of team efficiency and effectiveness. Baltimore had the best DVOA in 2023, followed by the 49ers, Bills, and Cowboys. Surprise, surprise, all those teams made the playoffs. Carolina had the worst DVOA, and to no one's shock, they were the worst team by record in the NFL. And at least they got the first overall pick for their troubles, right? Right? Now, there's a guy named Stephen Lurie who posts on footballfanspot.com, and he decided to add special teams to first down rate differential, and it appears he may have struck statistical outcome gold. By integrating special teams into first down rate differential, a hybrid statistic, 45% offense, 30% defense, 25% special teams, was developed, offering the highest predictiveness for future success. Yes, gambler, now you should get excited. This metric's ability to forecast winning percentage at 41.5% rate, significantly higher than the predictiveness of winning percentage alone, shows a huge advancement in football analytics. Finally, the nerds might be onto something.
Nerds! 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 Come on, Lewis, let's go. Nerds! 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 Nerds!
We'll call this the Lurie, and as of right now, it's the most reliable stat for predicting team success next year. Looking at various metrics, including passing and rushing statistics, further reinforces the greater predictiveness and predictability of offensive statistics, particularly passing metrics. In other words, offense is easier to keep stable from year to year than any other phase of the game. Interception rate and turnover margin, while offering some predictive value, show the importance of focusing on metrics that are not only predictive, but also predictable. The consistency of a team's passing game, reflected in metrics such as yards per attempt and touchdown rate, proves to be a more reliable indicator of future success, in particular with individuals. In 2023, Brock Purdy had the best yards per attempt average at 9.6, a huge margin over Hawk Tua at 8.3 yards per attempt. Not to mention, Purdy's touchdown rate was 7%, meaning he threw a scoring pass around every 14 times the ball left his hand. Maybe he should have been the MVP last season, or maybe that means he'll be an MVP in the next few seasons. Future bets, anyone? 2 years ago, Tua led the NFL in both yards per attempt and touchdown rate. The numbers weren't as good as Purdy, but were still tops in the league, yet his raw touchdowns and yards were 8th and 12th best, respectively, partially due to injury. If you had to read the tea leaves and looked at the more predictive stats, you might have been able to surmise that Tua would have had the 5th most touchdown passes and most passing yards in the league in 2023, 1 year later. Passing yards per attempt predicts next year's winning percentage about 24%, as does touchdown rate. Not as reliable. But if you really want to piss off Brandon Perna, you might show him that Russell Wilson had the 3rd best touchdown rate last season, which means he might actually turn out to be good in Pittsburgh. Yinzers, calm down. Unfortunately, he also had the 20th best yards per attempt in the NFL, so his red zone numbers might have carried him. So what does all this mean? Who is going to break out next season? There is one player I'd like to highlight whose numbers suggest he's a lot better than what he's getting credit for, or did get credit for last season. He wasn't a starter when the season began. He wasn't on anyone's radar, mostly because he hadn't thrown an NFL pass prior to the 2023 season, despite being 27 years old by the time the season kicked off. When Joe Burrow went down on Thursday night, the Bengals turned to former undrafted free agent Jake Browning. Browning started 7 games for the Bengals, winning 4 of them down the stretch. His raw numbers don't jump out at you like his smoke show girlfriend does, but he threw 12 touchdowns and 7 picks while totaling a little over 1,900 yards. Here's where it gets interesting. Browning was tied for 4th in yards per attempt, right there with Lamar Jackson, and far better than QBs like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott. Only CJ Stroud, Tua, and Brock Purdy averaged more yards every time the ball left their hands. And how about the touchdown percentage? Well, he was also in the top 10 in that category. He had a better chance of throwing a touchdown than CJ Stroud, Matt Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, to name a few A-listers. Oh, and not to mention, he also led the league in completion percentage. By all indications, Browning should not have accepted a backup role with the Bengals in 2024. He only played in 7 games and change, which makes the sample size a little small, but based on those immensely predictive numbers, he's worthy and perhaps more than capable of competing for a starting job somewhere in the league. But Browning rejoined the Bengals on a 2-year deal where he'll back up Joe Burrow until the end of the 2025 season. Browning may have deserved more, and it sounds like the Bengals got an absolute steal. So if Joe Burrow goes down and Jake Browning gets in the lineup, look for him to put up some numbers and exceed expectations. Yes, you degenerates, keep that in mind when you fire up your gambling apps. And now, a word from our sponsor. Hey, it's that off-season grind, and waiting for football makes it tough to get up in the morning. Well, with Benchwarmer Brew, the 5 Points blend, you can wake up and move another day closer to football. With ethically sourced, top-quality Arabica beans, this is truly high-quality coffee that tastes delicious. Ask anyone who has bought a bag, either ground or unground. And right now, you can use my code 5points10 to get a 10% discount for a one-time purchase or on subscription orders. And on t-shirts, just like this one. Go to benchwarmerbrew.com and use the code 5points10 and get 10% off your purchase today.